Hi everyone and welcome to another class with Buff Browz, and today we are exploring lamination paired with a stain. The difference between a successful result and an unsuccessful result, in my opinion, is your prep. In order to have a really thorough and long-term skin grab, we need to ensure that the skin is appropriately and thoroughly prepped. I'm starting with the Purify shampoo cleanser from the Brow Care range, and I'm really buffing that into the skin and the hair with our cleanse brush. Some clients you will need to double cleanse, but just ensure that you really do go to town on the preparation, because this really is the difference between that success and not getting the results that you want. Next, I am going in with polish, which is our exfoliator. This is one of the most important steps because all of those lovely apricot kernels are going to lift and remove any dead skin cells to ensure that we are working with a lovely fresh layer of skin for that perfect skin grab of colour. To remove any excess grains and any leftover solution from polish, I'm going back in with Purify. Again, this is just a really nice, thorough clean, especially if your client comes in with makeup on. Once you've removed Purify, you can then do your last aspect of the cleanse with Detox. Detox is a saline-based solution. Saline is sodium chloride, and this is the only ingredient that is going to completely break down any fatty acids on the skin and within the hair, and that is going to give you the perfect primed canvas for you to work with. So I'm going straight in with step 1 from our Cysteamine system. This client has got coarse hair and there's a lot of it, so it's likely to absorb the product at a rapid rate. So you may need to apply further product shortly. As soon as I start buffing step 1 into the eyebrow hairs, I will start my timer, and I always have 2 separate timers. One for the left brow and one for the right brow. So I do always apply a film wrap to the brows, and this is going to do two things. It's going to slightly speed up the processing times, and it's also going to really help those hairs to lay flat to the skin. It will speed up the processing times because it will increase the temperature. These products are very temperature sensitive, and the warmer they become, the faster they act. A little tip is to use a micro brush to really push the product into the hairs through the wrap, and this is also going to help to encourage those hairs to lie flat to the skin. I always apply my wrap for 2 minutes at a time. I don't want to lose control of the processing times, and I want to be able to visually assess the breakdown of the bonds within the hair very regularly. It's so important that we don't lose that control, and visual assessment is so key. So I'm just using a brush to start to maneuver those hairs and assess the flexibility and breakdown of the hair. You want to see really good, easy, pliable movement. If you do want to learn a little bit about the science behind these products and the treatment itself, do go and watch our Back to Basics or Behind the Science videos, and it is going to explain exactly how the anatomy of the hair works in unison with the products that you are applying. So you'll learn all about disulfide bonds, hydrogen bonds. You'll learn about the composition of the products and how they work in unison with the anatomy structure of the hairs. It's really interesting, and I think personally quite important for artists to understand. One of my favourite pieces of advice would be to remove the product from the tips of the hairs. The tip of the hair does not house a cuticle, or the layers of the cuticle have massively decreased, which is why the hair is a lot less dense in this particular area. This means that products can penetrate very quickly and easily into this area of the hair, and it can over-process in comparison to the root of the hair, which is much more dense and takes a little bit longer to break down. So what I've done, to recap, is remove product from the tip of the hairs, and then I've reapplied further product to the root, to that lower half of the brow, to ensure that that root is able to break down and restructure. This way we're going to avoid over-processing and kinking of the tips of the hairs. I'm going to apply the wrap again, only for 2 minutes, and again this is just going to help to speed up the processing time slightly and to also really encourage those hairs to lay flat. Once you are happy with the breakdown and flexibility of the hairs, and you can see that they are moving really well and that they are lying flat to the skin, it's time to remove step 1. Also, don't be alarmed if you see the colour of the hairs become a lot lighter and warmer. It's the shift in pH that creates this colour change, and once you apply step 2, you will see the colour of the original hair return. I really like to do a 1.5 step to really ensure that the integrity of the hairs is really well maintained. I'm using Heavenly Balm to really penetrate hydration and moisture back into the hair. You don't need a lot, a little goes a long way, and I like to apply it for just a couple of minutes. So prior to applying step 2, please do ensure that the eyebrow hairs are brushed up into your new desired shape and structure, as step 2 is now going to reconnect all of those broken disulfide bonds and set the hairs into their new shape. You will need to apply a lot of step 2. With our system, we do mirror the timings with step 2 and step 1. So whatever timings you use for step 1, you're going to mirror that with step 2. Please do check your manufacturer's guidelines, as timings can differ between brands. But yes, for us, we do mirror the timings for step 2 and step 1. I do like to apply a generous amount of step 2 to the brows. Coarse and dense hairs will absorb more product, so if you need to apply further product, that's totally fine. And you can already see here after a minute or so that that natural melanin, that natural colour within the brow hairs has already restored as we shift the pH. So this client came in and requested a very bold statement brow. Now, I do personally feel that she could have pulled off a multitude of different styles. She could have had a naked lamy, she could have had just a regular maintenance appointment with a wax and tint, but she specifically requested a thick, bold brow, which is why I am opting to do a lamination paired with a stain. You do need to check what type of stain you're working with, as we refer to stains as just stains or dyes or hybrid. And if it's a hybrid, it's usually because there is some kind of henna extract within the product. A lot of artists really struggle to get that perfect grab, especially after lamination. So I'm using Purify to cleanse the skin and the hair and remove any reminiscence of step 2. Most lamination systems do contain ingredients that hydrate and add moisture to the skin and the hair, and we want to eliminate that prior to applying our stain in order to get a thorough skin grab. And I'm actually drying the area out with a small fan to remove any moisture from water, and this is one of my best tips before applying your stain. Now, when it comes to actually applying the stain, some artists like to apply it free-handedly and others like to map prior to application. I think it really comes down to preference and ability and skill set, but just don't feel under pressure or alarmed by the amount of different techniques that are used out there. You just need to find what works best for you. For this client, I'm using a head ruler and I'm going to do some markings with our definer pen. And I am marking her at 5 for the arch and 7.5 on each side for the tip of the tail. I'm now going to use a pre-inked thread to mark the top and the bottom of the brows. And then I also use string along the top of the brows, but don't personally use string along the bottom. I don't particularly like using that technique. I would rather use my pen. This is a guideline to help you to achieve the best shape for your client, and if you look at it and still don't feel that it looks quite right, do feel free to amend it free-handedly because it is just a guideline. Some artists will take it that one step further. Once they have achieved the shape that they want to create for their client, they will then run along the outline with a mapping paste or concealer to create a barrier to stop the stain from penetrating outside of that shape. However, if your application is good and precise enough, in my opinion, you shouldn't need to do this. Now, different stains will give you different finishes. Some stains are water-based, others are gel-based, and others are cream-based. Depending on the base, you will need to use varying different techniques. Now, our original stain has got something called an affinity to oxygen, which means that it needs to interact with oxygen in order to activate, which is why we use a watercolour technique to apply the stain, which means that we are essentially applying the stain in extraordinarily thin layers. I do between 3 and 4 layers of stain, and I alternate between the left brow and the right brow in order to allow each layer of stain to completely dry out before applying another layer. I do use a stamping technique to apply the stain, and I do press quite firmly into the skin. I think it's worth having a couple of different brushes depending on the size of the brow you're working with. I always start along the bottom of the brow around the arch area, as this is where I want the finish to be most dense and most solid. And I will work in the front of the eyebrow last, as this is where I want the area to be less dense so that we have a nice gradient of colour and opacity for a nice soft ombre finish. When you work with water-based products, you are going to get the strongest finish. Cream-based products are going to get you a much more softer and natural finish. and gel-based products are going to get you a result that's very much in between. Your product choice really comes down to preference at the end of the day. So once you've applied your last layer of stain, you can actually wax around your shape, and this is going to save a little bit of time. Now I'm starting to remove the stain at the front of the brow, as this is where I want it to be most soft, and I'm just using our new rinse shampoo, which is a colour care product which is going to help maintain your skin grab on the skin. If you have got any leftover wax on the skin, you can use our new Soothe product, which will quite literally melt it off. However, if you are going to do any form of makeup application, you do want to use Detox to remove any excess Soothe so that you don't get any type of pilling of product on the skin. So for this client, I'm actually going to carve the brows out using brush number 3 and our Bare Necessities palette, and less is always more. Just run along the edge and build up that opacity and coverage as you go and as desired. This definitely isn't a necessary step, but for that perfect picture, it really does help.